Okay, guys, this is going to be my review for The Bad Batch Episode 1. It's just great. It was just a great, nice little thing to put on. May the 4th. Great, obviously, Star Wars Day. They dropped Episode 1 of Bad Batch. And, I was looking forward to it because it's like spin-off of Clone Wars. Dave Filoni working on it. Same team, same animation style. But at the end of the day, I wasn't that looking forward to it. I was interested, but we'll see how it is. And then it was like, I thought it was going to be, a 20-minute episode, but it was an hour and 15 minutes. And I really loved it. And while you give the great, moments, whether you talk about Order 66, seeing, obviously, Kanan, and at that point, going by Caleb, and yeah, they kind of retconned what had happened in the comics, but that's fine to give us these great moments. But I love that they give us these great flashy moments, but they tie that into the story, because this event and kind of Hunter helping him oh god damn, what's his name again? Crosshair, or is it Crosshair? I think so. Kind of having that ship working, the Order 66 going off for him. That kind of whole dynamic actually has an effect on the show in the episode, and they bring that up. And it kind of feels like a mini movie in a way, and obviously leading towards interesting different stuff. But what I also love is they always put story in front of action, where this episode obviously has great action and so well animated too. Great animation. But I really love that they put the story first. This kind of interesting look and perspective of Order 66 in kind of the rise of the Empire through the look of these, deformed clones. Because it gives you this interesting perspective, because it gives you a perspective of the closest you're gonna get to the perspective of the clones, the closest perspective you're going to get to the clones without having it be through the perspective of the clones who ultimately join the Empire. So it's interesting, because you get the show from the view of the Bad Batch, you kind of get a view of the Empire and in the early days of the Empire, and it's very interesting in seeing how the Empire kind of works and how the clones are different, because now we have stuff to compare it to, you know what I mean? Where when Clone Wars came out, we had nothing to compare the storm. I guess the idea is that we had no idea to compare what changes do the clones go through between becoming a clone and then what happens after Order 66. Because we get teases of it in Clone Wars Season 7, but we don't really get that. So it's interesting to see how the personality of a clone changes because of Order 66, and it's just interesting, and it gives us an interesting insight of the Star Wars world, and this is what I wanted, taking great and iconic moments of the Star Wars lore, like Order 66, but showing it from an interesting perspective, because Revenge of the Sith was from the perspective of, obviously, Anakin, but also the main Jedi, like Yoda and stuff, and Obi-Wan. But then obviously Clone Wars was showing it from Rex and Ahsoka's perspective. But here we're kind of getting it from the Bad Batch, who are more interconnected to the overall larger scheme of the clones. And I think that was just interesting. And I think I think the key was I love the perspective. But at the same time, I love the development of the characters. And I love that the story came first. While you get the great action, it doesn't feel like a 70-minute action sequence. There was story behind it. When Crosshair, became, they fully activated his chip, you felt that. You felt the bond, but you also felt the temperament, and you also felt the anger in their chemistry, and their banter is so fascinating, where there's, humor involved, but there's also seriousness between Hunter and kind of Crosshair, and you can't really read Crosshair through the middle there, because I think Crosshair is such an interesting character, where it's like the chip sort of went off, because with Crosshair, it's like, on the one hand, it's like he still, is aware of things as, I think they made it pretty clear, when a clone activates Order 66, he completely shifts his brain to, I gotta execute Order 66. I got to follow the Empire's laws. Whereas Crosshair was, yes, follow orders, follow orders, follow orders, but also was aware, like, of what happens and aware of other people's feelings. So it was interesting seeing someone whose chip semi-activated. And so the characters were great, the story was great, and obviously, yes, the action, the training stuff, and obviously the Crosshair stuff, and even Omega was interesting, kind of being this kind of fifth de facto clone. So they really introduced a lot of interesting stuff, and I just thought everything worked. I really thought the action worked, the animation style, obviously, still Clone Wars, worked. But again, I love that they keep the story first, but they're not afraid to go down the dark roads. Because they could have easily had just made all of the Bad Batch all happy and friendly and good. But no. Or they could have just... They could have, done some certain stuff. They didn't have to make Crosshair evil, but they did it because they wanted to show the depth, and they didn't have to show, Kanan getting attacked. They didn't have to show, like, a little Padawan getting shot at. But they did because they're not afraid, because I think each season of Clone Wars, and now even getting into Bad Batch, each season blurs the line between kiddie animation and real cinematic qualities, because many people, for animated shows in general, there's this bias that animated shows can't be gritty and dark and real and brutal and have great storytelling. But I tell you, each season you get along in Clone Wars, the more you realize, no, there are some great stories, to the point where you get to this Bad Batch episode. And while it's not better than a lot of Clone Wars episodes, what I think it does best is it shows that here's the thing. This episode of Bad Batch amplifies everything great about Clone Wars. And yes, this is a spin-off, but essentially it's Clone Wars, but instead of it being a 4-episode arc, it's like an 8-episode arc, And so it amplifies everything I love about Clone Wars. Obviously the gritty action, the war, but also the politics of it all. And then also what I love about the Clone Wars is showing key elements of the Star Wars lore, but from a new perspective, like Order 66, now from the Bad Batch perspective. But then also the characters are great, and the story. So, yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was a great way to kick off the show, yeah. It made the May the 4th a great, great day. Anyway, stay tuned for more videos coming at you.